Hello everyone. I did this little painting last night. I did a time lapse of it. I just wasn't really pleased with what I did with the stem here. This part of this stem, I went over it with Prismacolor crayons because I just didn't like it, and I still didn't like it, but it looks okay. But what I wanted to talk about tonight was, or today, or whatever it is time you're watching this video, how to achieve rich watercolor backgrounds using just watercolor and some acrylic speckling. The reason I wanted to show you this is because oftentimes we see the translucent watercolor backgrounds that are gorgeous, but I like a richer background that's a little bit textured. So I'm going to show you how I achieve this by doing a little orb sample. This is a Arches watercolor pad. It is hot pressed, so that means it's very smooth. And I'm gonna demonstrate this video, but I'm gonna put some of it in time lapse so this video doesn't take too much time. So I'm gonna prep this pad and tape it, the edges, just because I like a nice border, nice clean border. I have some tools with me. I have a circle tool to do the orb. I have a toothbrushes for speckling. I have a brush that is prepped for masking fluid. And I prep it because I don't want to ruin the brush afterwards. And one day I'll show you how, in a demo, I'll show you how to save a brush from your masking fluid. So if you can tell, this one has been prepped already. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is take my little watercolor palette here. These are some of my favorite watercolor brushes. It's a Princeton long handle, or this one isn't. It's a flat brush by Princeton. Love it. And we have their 14-inch long handle brush. I got these from Hobby Lobby, and this is their long round. This is just a little cheap brush I use for detailing sometime, and this is a squirrel brush, a 1/2 inch flat brush. And this is my favorite Tombow pencil. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just put an orb here. I don't really have to dead center it, but let's do one here. It's a big orb. All right, here we go. We'll do one here. Let's do one here also. This is the format or the design that I use for my Christmas cards. You know, if you want to do the ornaments, you just make the little lines. But we're just going to be making orbs tonight. Who knows what these will end up doing. So next thing I'm going to do is get my prepped watercolor brush. For the masking fluid, I got a drop there. We won't worry about it. And we'll mask out these circles. Now this brush has some dye in it, so it looks a little rainbow colored. Flat brushes are great for circles because you can lean it on, lean on the bristles and just go around. Makes great lines for the edge of the circle. Just cool. Went outside the circle a little bit, but I'm not gonna sweat it. And I keep loading that brush because with this masking fluid is liquid rubber. If it gets too dry, it'll start pulling. Okay, there's orb number 1, all protected from this background that we're gonna do. And we're gonna do a lot of layers, so we're gonna make sure this guy is masked all the way to the edge. We'll do the smaller one. So if you have that problem, don't worry about it. You can go back and fix it later, or leave it like that. Give it a little character. Oops, going outside the line. Not gonna worry about it too much. But you do want a nice orb. It looks like an orb. It's a lumpy orb. Maybe it's not an orb anymore. All right. Get along those edges really carefully there. I love to paint. I love to paint walls, fingernails, anything. I just love to put color on things. It's a habit that I love. I'm always playing with my nails. Some of the drawings that I do end up in the most peculiar places. All right, so there's my prepped watercolor brush. Or it's a flat acrylic brush, but I'm just gonna rinse it off in some water here. And as you will see, hopefully you will see, the masking fluid should come right off. Got a little sticky there. Sometimes you'll get little rubber lines there, but that brush shouldn't be too ruined. Should come right off. I love playing with this stuff, probably too much. Now I'm gonna speed up the video so I can dry my orbs. And there we are, my brush is good. I'll give it one more washing. And you see, I saved the brush. A little bit right there still, but it'll come off. I'll show you how that's done one of these days. So you don't waste a brush. Even if it's a cheap brush, it's still a brush. And you wanna take care of it. All right, so I'm gonna time lapse this so I can dry it. All right, so we got that dry, and here's that masking fluid that I dripped. I just pulled it, so I'm just gonna get rid of that really quick. Just use my fingers, get some exfoliating done there. I hope that comes all the way out. There we go. I'm gonna dry it. I'm using a heat tool here. I'm gonna make sure that's nice and dry. That may cause me some problems, but we'll see. Still looks a little glossy, but as you can see, if you touch it, there's nothing on my fingers. And we got that little area right there. I can get a razor and cut that. Or I could just leave it there. Doesn't matter. It's a demonstration, so it should be okay. But we can take a bulk of that off. But you just have to be careful that you don't pull it on the inner circle. Which, either way, it's easier to spread your circle out than it is to take it in sometimes. Okay, so I have here Daniel Smith watercolors, and I have an old spray bottle here from some hair products I use. So I'm just going to use that to wet my watercolors down. Now I want to use a rich, possibly blue. I have also a very rich blue here by Dr. Martin's Hydrus Fine Watercolors. They're pretty good at getting down some really, really rich backgrounds also. But for right now, for this first layer, I'm just going to lay down this turquoise blue right here. Okay? So I'll try to find my biggest. This may not be big enough. I'm going to need a bigger brush. This is a squirrel hair brush. These guys will cost you about 50 bucks, but I just happened to go into an art store that was closing, and they had everything on clearance. And I think I got this brush for like 20 bucks. Really good deal. They collect squirrel hairs and they make bristles with them. I'd never heard of a black squirrel until I went to DC and I saw black squirrels. They were very friendly. All right, hope you guys had a great holiday. I'm going to put this first layer down. It's just a wash. I usually go in one direction. Put it down kind of fast. Watch the water settling in your corners. Every now and then just give it a quick swipe. You could have your paint all made up before you start, but who knows how much you're going to need. So I just make it as I go. A little rough there on the paper where the masking fluid landed. This is hot pressed paper. It's a little more tender, a little more temperamental than cold pressed paper. It tends to want to tear a little bit, but that's why you careful with your layers. Don't put too many strokes on there while it's wet. Okay, so I'm practically dry brushing now, just helping to remove the streaks. You may want streaks, but let's give that a quick dry. When you're drying, the paper may buckle a little bit when it's wet, but when you dry, you see it go back flat. That's how you know an area is dry. Very satisfying. All right, be careful holding your heat gun too long on the liquid rubber or masking fluid because it may want to bubble. You don't want that. So now I'm going to do another layer here with this turquoise, and you will see with each layer it gets darker and richer. And you can see the full embodiment of the color. Okay, so let's give it another layer. But I'm going to concentrate this paint just a little bit more, but not enough for it to be done incorrectly. And you know it's done incorrectly when you see harsh, dark streaks. And when you dry them, those streaks are shiny. That means your composition or your solution or your ratio for water to watercolor is too much pigment. I meant water to pigment. If you get those streaks. Okay. So there's layer number 2. And people have asked me, you know, isn't that time consuming? All right, it's time consuming. Anything worth doing or that you have passion for is worth putting the work into it. And we all know, us artists know, this is a labor of love. It's relaxing. So just relax. I hope you had a great holiday. I did. All the children and grandchildren were here. We had a house full. I'm going to dry it one more time. You can use a normal hair dryer for this. It's probably better because this guy can burn your paper. If you're not careful, you just have to watch the sheen. Make sure it's going away and drying. See that flattening? I don't know if you can see it on the video. That's what tells you that it's good and dry. Watch the rubber. You don't want to hold the heat gun on it too long. It'll start bubbling. All right, the reason I tape this like this is because when you apply the heat to it, the tape likes to pull. So I like to go in there and press that tape in more, or you'll get bleed up under the tape, which affects your border. It can be fixed, but it's best to try to get a nice clean border when you can. Now, I have my turquoise down, but I want to keep with the turquoise color, but I want to darken it a little bit. So I'm going to go over here and make a different turquoise. That brush holds a lot of water. This is Daniel Smith cerulean blue, I think. It says sea blue. Probably cerulean. Could be turquoise. I don't know what that sea is. I have it in a little tube somewhere. So I'm making some concentrated color here. I'm going to clean off my brush. And I'm going to add a little bit of black for this next layer. And I'm going to add a little bit of this blue here. I think that's ultramarine blue. So I still have my turquoise, but now it's a little bit darker. So now I'm going to go back with this layer and make it a little bit darker. Let's make a little bit more. All right. It's a little bit lighter, but it's okay. We're achieving our goal here, which is to have layers of rich watercolor. Sometimes you get the little hairs that will come off of your brush. I just totally went into the wrong blue, but it's okay. Get a little of this black. Let's get some more of this blue. And let's just look at all these different colors of blues here. We're just going for a nice, rich blue background. I want to stay on the turquoisey side. Watch the puddle of pigments in your corner. Sometimes you might want to change directions with your brush just to give it a little bit of balance there. And also to move those colors around. Watch those streaks. Go in there and gently brush them away. What's that, layer number 3? All right. So now I'm going to do the rest of the layers, probably about 5 more in time lapse, so we don't take up too much video time. Okay, so I wanted you guys to see this real quick. I added a couple of drops of the ultramarine blue and also the Phthalo blue from Dr. Martin's liquid watercolors. And I just want you to see just how much richer it makes the color. Makes for better color saturation, way more intense. And they are watercolors. They act like watercolors. They're just heavily, heavily pigmented. And so it'll cut some of those layers down. The ratio is a little bit different from the water, regular transparent watercolors, traditional watercolors. But as you play with them, you can figure that out. I think I had about 1 to 10 here, whereas with traditional watercolors, you can do about 4 parts to 10. But this is just a little tiny drop in here. Keeping with my bluish turquoise. See, I got some black right there. You can just wipe that out. I don't know where it came from. Okay, so Get that blue right there. We want to keep it turquoisey still. So I'll keep adding a little bit of turquoise in there. As you notice, I change up directions because we don't want to get those streaks, too many streaks. Sometimes they're beautiful. The streaks are, if you're doing a complicated or abstract background, you want to get as many streaks as you can. It's all in what you're going for. Now, as you can see, it's becoming less and less. It's still transparent, but it's becoming more and more rich. Okay, pay attention to your strokes. Make sure you don't have any streaks of darkness, of dark watercolor. It tells you may not have used enough water. I see a little piece of fuzz there or something, but that's okay. It'll all work itself out. So that goes down beautifully. And we're going to put down one more layer. And I changed to a regular air dryer because the heat gun makes me nervous. I don't want my paper to burn. All right, so now that we have the watercolor layers down, I think there was about 20 layers, maybe 15, who knows, maybe 10. I didn't count. If you know, let me know. I take sometimes, it's kind of dangerous to do this, just wipe a little of that paint off so it doesn't smudge too much. With a wet sponge. Should be fine though, because there'll be several layers. So I put a little bit of black shadowing around my orbs just to see what that's going to look like. Now while the masking fluid is still on, I'll take my Liquitex black, shake it up real good. Just a little dab up there. And I'll take a little bit of Liquitex white. Now I have here some stored ink, and it's Sharpies that went dry. I just cut the cartridges out of them, the ink cartridges out of them, and put them in some alcohol, and I just soak it. It's a little bit purple, so I'm going to just kind of do this. This just to cover my orbs because that's pretty messy, and I'm just gonna spray just a tad, there we go, of that there. Okay, now I'm gonna take a toothbrush. I really need some different water for this because this is acrylic paint. You don't want to mix acrylic paint water and watercolor water. So let me get another little water over here. All right. So I'm going to put a little bit of water in here, like so. I just got a sink put in my studio. It's really nice. So I'm going to wet this brush. I need a glove because I don't like it getting under my nails. Here we go. Everyone will have after COVID is completely over, I think a lot of us can have a lot of gloves left over. Put them to use. All right. So put my brush in a little bit of water, and we already put a little bit of black down. We're going to put a little bit more speckling with the black on the shadowy side here, and we'll just get some black around these orbs. And that's really all you need. Put a little bit there, but most of it we want to hit here. Just a little speckling there. Okay. Put my brush there. Get this excess black off my hands. And now I'm going to do it with the white. Same thing. It's a little bit dry. Okay, so on this side we'll add some white. This doesn't want to speckle big enough for me. I may have to actually break out with the speckler there, or a bigger toothbrush. There we go. Gotta be really flaked. Yeah, now we're cooking like gravy. So I'll add a little bit of white over here. But mostly, since the light is coming in from the right, we'll put most of the white to the right of the orbs. Say that 3 times. And get it a little bit saturated right here. Gorgeous. You don't want it there too much on the edges. So now I'm going to time lapse to dry this. All right, so let's get this little rubber pickup here. It's very, very used. And we're gonna take the masking fluid off. So I try to rub in one direction. It just tends to do better that way than all over the place. You can also use your finger to rub it off, but this guy, that can burn your fingers. This guy really helps get it all the way off. You'll get some buildup there, just toss it in the trash can. Some people save it, make a big one, and make another pickup. You're gonna make sure you get all of that off. See what happens when you go in more than one direction? My fingernail just got that board, that paper. Make it a cute little indentation there. I'm out down here in my studio with my house coat on. I'm on vacay, just enjoying my winter break. Had a great holiday with the children, grandchildren. I have 6, one on the way. Not me. One more grandchild on the way. Whew. Knock on wood. Just playing. All right. So there we go. We have a nice white area to work with. So now I'm going to put layers and layers on these orbs. I think I'm going to use red and orange, possibly. So they complement each other really well. So let's get started. Well, it's all done, and my sons are home. Zach Grooves, Saxologic. They have turned on the television. They don't know I'm videoing, so it's okay. I'm just going to peel this off real quick. And you'll hear TV in the background. I added some gel pen lines to it so it didn't look so plain. And as you can see, now, I didn't tape this all the way down because this paper is bonded or glued on the edges. I usually tape it to this piece of glass, but no. Anywho, that's how it looks with some rich watercolor background. I decided to add some gel there because that was too dominating. I probably should have washed that out quite a bit, but it's okay. The point is taken. Look at that rich watercolor background. Love it. I need to put my little signature on here. I just do my initials. There we go.